Monster Hunter World Iceborne's endgame can be a challenge for the best of hunters out there, but with the right gear and builds, even endgame tasks can easily be achieved. I'm Darcblade, and we're back with even more amazing builds for Monster Hunter World Iceborne. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at Anti-Safi'Jiiva builds. The whole aim of this episode is to provide builds for players who have got to endgame and want to take on Safi'Jiiva for the first time. This video will demonstrate one build for each of the 14 weapons out there to hopefully give you an efficient build to farm Safi'Jiiva, at least until you get some post-Safi'Jiiva equipment. Now, a disclaimer for these seasons, as you can tell from what I've already mentioned, these builds are aimed for endgame hunters who have completed the main story and have access to most of the gear and jewels pre-Safi'Jiiva. But remember, if you don't have what is shown or demonstrated in these videos, you can always swap out jewels and pieces of gear here and there to what you have available. So let's get into this. The first build we're going to be covering is for the Darcblade. This build is focused all around dealing damage to Safi'Jiiva through our foul bursts from the super amped elemental discharge. Thus we have an increased artillery skill, but on top of that it also has other DPS options and quality of life skills. So for this build you'll need the Zora headgear beta, the Zora hide beta, Zora claws beta, Damascus coil beta, and the Stygian greaves beta. I'm also using an attack charm 4, and for my weapon I'm using the Luna Eostra, which is the Gold Raffian Darcblade. This has an affinity increase augmentation, health regen augmentation, and then an augmentation of your choice, to which I've gone for a defense increase augmentation. As for your jewels, you've got a lot to play around with here, to which I've gone for artillery jewels to max out the artillery skill. I've then gone for a magazine jewel for capacity boost, destroyer jewels, which are important jewels to use in Safi'Jiiva builds for the part breaker skill. I've then gone for Vitality jewels for a maxed out health boost, Tenderizer jewels for weakness exploit, Protection jewels for some divine blessing, and finally a Phoenix jewel for the coalescence skill. The jewels on the mantles are down to personal preference, to which I've gone for Challenger jewels for the agitated skill. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health, and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 1141 with white sharpness. You have 25% base affinity, which can be 75 when you're attacking monster weak points. That can be tenderized through clutch claw attacks first. You have a poison rating of 420 with impact files, and you have a strong defense of 980 that is strong against fire, but unfortunately weak to the other elements. As for the skills, you have Artillery at level 5. Artillery increases the damage of our foul attacks, as well as foul bursts. You have Attack Boost at level 4. Attack Boost increases the raw damage of a build, and at level 4 or above it also increases our affinity by an extra 5%. You have Health Boost level 3, allowing our health to get to the maximum of 200. You have Weakness Exploit level 3. Weakness Exploit is a skill that increases our affinity when we're attacking monster weak points, and should these said weak points be tenderized through clutch claw attacks first, then this bonus affinity is even more. At level 3 it can be a maximum of 50%. You have Focus level 3. Focus is a skill that is useful for the Darcblade. It allows us to charge up the weapon quickly. Thus, it takes less time to activate your file bursts. You have Part Breaker level 3, allowing us to break monster body parts more easily, and as Safi'Jiiva is all about breaking monster body parts, this is an essential skill for the hunt. You have Divine Blessing level 3, which is a defensive skill that gives us a chance at taking reduced damage when we take a hit from a monster. You have Flinch Free level 3, preventing any minor knockbacks from Safi'Jiiva or your allies. You have Tremor Resistance level 2, allowing us to resist some tremor attacks. You have Capacity Boost level 1, increasing the maximum amount of files we have. You have Coalescence level 1, which is a buff that kicks in after you remove a blight from your hunter, increasing your raw attack, elemental damage, and ailment damage. And then finally, when you're wearing your mantles, you'll have Agitator level 4. Agitator is a skill that kicks in when a monster becomes enraged, increasing your raw attack and affinity. Finally, for the set bonus, you'll have Zora Magdaros Essence Artillery Secret, allowing us to get the artillery skill up from level 3 to a maximum of level 5. So there you have it, that is the basic Anti-Safi'Jiiva Darcblade build I tend to use. This build could be considered a hybrid, as it does have some options to allow you to use Savage Axe mode, thanks to having weakness exploit and such, but for the main part I just spam super amped elemental discharge attacks with this build, and it allows you to take on the siege quite efficiently. Which brings us on to the next weapon, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva bow build. The bow is an unusual weapon to take against Safi'Jiiva. Apart from having very weird and bad hit zones, the bow's damage definitely fluctuates when used against this monster. Normally I probably wouldn't recommend taking the bow into the hunt, but I wanted to make a build for every single weapon out there, so this is what I came up with. It's a little bit of an all-round elemental damage build. So for this you'll need the Rime Helm Beta, the Kieran Jacket Beta, Rime Van Braces Beta, Tentacle Coil Beta, and Tentacle Greaves Beta. I'm also using a Worm's Bane Charm 5, and for my weapon I'm using the Stygian Patientia, which is the Stygian Zenogre bow. This has a elemental up augmentation, affinity increase augmentation, and then an augmentation of your choice, to which I've gone for a defense increase augmentation. To be honest, the reason I've gone for this bow is the way it looks, as every true hunter also wants to look good whilst they're chasing down their target. Anyway, as for the jewels, you've got a few to play around with, to which I've gone for a dragon jewel to max out the dragon attack of this build. I've then gone for destroyer jewels for part breaker, vitality jewels for health boost, tenderizer jewels for weakness exploit, expert jewels for some critical eye, a mighty bow jewel for the bow charge plus skill, and finally a physique jewel for the constitution skill. Jewels on the mantles, I've simply gone for challenger jewels again for some agitator. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 354 with 35% base affinity. It can be 85% so long as you're attacking monster weak points that have been tenderized through Clutch Claw attacks first. You have a dragon rating of 530 with average Elder Seal, and you'll have close range and power coatings. You also have a decent defense of 914 that is strong against water, thunder and ice, but a little bit weak to dragon and fire. As for the skills, you'll have dragon attack level 6, increasing the dragon rating and damage of this build. Now when it comes to Safi'Jiiva and elemental damage, dragon seems to be the best thanks to the fact you have the added Elder Seal bonus, which helps you drain the areas that Safi'Jiiva are in more quickly. Anyway, you also have critical eye level 5, increasing the base affinity of this build. You have health boost level 3, weakness exploit level 3, part breaker level 3, constitution level 3. Constitution is a useful skill for the bow as it reduces the costs of actually firing the bow in terms of stamina costs. You have stamina surge level 3, increasing how quickly our stamina will recharge itself. You have Divine Blessing level 3, Quick Sheath level 1, a byproduct of the gear but helps us sheath the weapon a little bit more quickly. You have Flinch Free level 1, Bow Charge Plus level 1, allowing us to charge up the bow one more level than it can normally go to, ultimately increasing its damage. And finally, when we're wearing our mantles, you'll have Agitator level 4. Finally, for the set bonuses, you'll have two of them. First is Namiel's Divinity Element Acceleration. This is a buff that kicks in when you've been attacking a monster for a set amount of hits, after which you will receive bonus elemental attack. And as we haven't maxed out the elemental up augmentation on our weapon, this is still useful and will kick in despite us having level 6 dragon attack. You'll also have Velkhana's Divinity Critical Element, increasing the elemental damage of our attacks when we crit a monster. So there you have it. As you can see, it's a little bit of an all-round build, having DPS skills, quality of life skills, and a few defensive skills. Like I said, the bow may not be the best choice to take against Safi'Jiiva, but if you want to use it, then this build works fine. Which brings us on to the next weapon, which I'm going to cover, which is the dual blades. The dual blades are in a very similar situation to the bow, at least in terms of build. However, the dual blades fare far better against Safi'Jiiva than the bow, having more favourable hit zones to allow you to deal damage to the monster. The main trouble with the dual blades is unfortunately their short range, meaning that it's hard for you to attack certain body parts. Nonetheless, this build was fun to use, and again it's an elemental DPS one. So for this, again you'll need the Rhyme Helm beta, the Kirin Jacket beta, Rhyme Van Braces beta, Tentacle Coil beta, and Tentacle Grease beta. I'm also using a Wormsbane Charm 5, and for my weapon I'm using Death Row, which is the Ebony Adogeron dual blades. These have an elemental up augmentation and then an augmentation of your choice, to which I've gone for a defense increase augmentation. As for your jewels, I've gone for Destroyer jewels for part breaker, Vitality jewels for health boost, Expert jewels for critical eye, a Dragon jewel to max out the dragon attack, Tenderizer jewels for weakness exploit, and you have a jewel to play around with, to which I had a Physique jewel for some constitution. As always, Challenger jewels have gone on the mantles. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 357 with maxed out white sharpness. You have 50% base affinity, which can easily be 100% so long as you're attacking monster weak points that have been tenderized through Clutch Claw attacks first. You have a dragon rating of 600 with high Elder Seal, and you have a decent defense of 914 that is strong against water, thunder and ice, but unfortunately weak to fire and dragon. As for the skills, you have dragon attack level 6, critical eye level 6, health boost level 3, weakness exploit level 3, part breaker level 3, stamina surge level 3, divine blessing level 3, constitution level 2, quick sheath level 1, and flinch free level 1. You also have agitator at level 4 when you're wearing your mantles, and when it comes to the set bonuses, again you'll have Namiel's Divinity Element Acceleration, and this still works with these dual blades despite having almost maxed out elemental augmentations on the weapon and a maxed out dragon attack. We still get a little bit of bonus dragon attack when this buff kicks in. And finally, you also have Velkhana's Divinity Critical Element. And as this build easily gets to 100% affinity, so long as you're attacking monster weak points, this build can really make use of it. So there you have it. As you can see, it's very similar to the bow build, but it's just for more melee focused, combining elemental DPS, quality of life skills, and a few defensive skills. I will say, if you are using the dual blades, just remember to make use of the Heavenly Blade Dance, as it's a wonderful move to use against Safi'Jiiva. Which brings us on to the next weapon, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva Switch Axe build. This is a bit more of a straight up damage dealing build, utilising the Master's touch skill to prevent sharpness loss. So for this build you need the Kaiser Crown Beta, the Rex Royal Mail Beta, Kaiser Van Braces Beta, Kaiser Coil Beta and the Garuga Greaves Beta. I'm also using the Challenge Charm 4, and for my weapon I'm using the Golden Crescent, which is the Golden Rathian Switch Axe. This has a health regen augmentation, affinity increase augmentation, and then an augmentation of your choice, to which I've gone for a status effect up augmentation. As for the jaws, you've got a few to play around with, to which I've gone for your usual ones: Destroyer jaws for the Part Breaker skill, Vitality jaws for health boost, Tenderizer jaws for weakness exploit, Critical jaws this time for crit boost, Attack jaws for some attack boost, and a Challenger jaw for the Agitator skill. The jaws on the mantles are slightly different this time, as I am using different mantles. I'm using basically the Temporal Mantle and Rocksteady Mantle to allow us to latch onto a monster to perform the zero sum discharge attack without being knocked off, and to which I've added protection jaws and more attack jaws. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 1299 with white sharpness. You have 70% base affinity, which can easily be 100% once certain buffs like Agitator and Weakness Exploit are being used. You have a poison rating of 420 with power files, and you have an OK defense of 913 that is strong against fire, thunder and dragon, but unfortunately weak to water and ice. As for the skills, you have Critical Eye level 7, Agitator at level 5, Attack Boost at level 4, which can be potentially level 6 when we're wearing our mantles. You have Health Boost level 3, Critical Boost level 3. Critical Boost is a skill that increases the raw damage of an attack when we crit a monster, but it won't do anything for the elemental or element portions. Weakness Exploit level 3, Part Breaker at level 3, Blast Attack at level 2. This is a byproduct of the armor. It's not needed on this build as we're not using a blast weapon. This would basically increase the blast rating and build up of that said ailment. Anyway, you have Heat Guard level 1. Heat Guard is a useful skill that prevents any damage when you're in hot areas that would deal damage to your hunter, such as the lava zones in the Guiding Lands or Elder's Recess. You also have Latent Power level 1. This is a byproduct of the armor we're wearing, but it's still useful. It's a buff that kicks in after you've taken a set amount of damage from a monster, or you've been fighting that said monster for a set amount of time. When this kicks in, you'll get increased affinity and reduced stamina consumption. You'll also have Divine Blessing level 1, which can be level 3 when we're wearing our mantles. And then finally you'll have the set bonus Teostra's Technique, Master's Touch, preventing any sharpness loss when we crit a monster. And as this build has incredibly high affinity, to the point where we're exceeding 100% to be honest, thanks to Weakness Exploit being at level 3, it means we should see next to no sharpness loss whatsoever. So there you have it. As you can see, it is a little bit of a straightforward DPS build, focusing on high affinity and attack more than anything else. This build doesn't really have any quality of life skills, unfortunately, that would benefit the Switch Axe, but it makes up for it in raw power. On top of that, it's also a decent build to use in longer fights, as you don't have to worry about sharpness, as you should be losing minimal amounts of it. Just remember that when you're locking onto a monster to perform the zero sum discharge attacks, to make use of your mantles to ensure that you get those attacks off, as you cannot be knocked off whilst wearing the Temporal Mantle or Rocksteady Mantles. Which brings us on to the next build, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva Hammer build. This build is a damage build crossed with quality of life skills, ensuring that the hammer can deal a decent amount of damage without being interrupted. So for this you'll need the Golden Headdress Beta, the Damascus Mail Beta, the Ruinous Van Braces Beta, Damascus Coil Beta and the Ruinous Greaves Beta. I'm also using a Breaker Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Ruinous Obliteration, which is the Runa Nergigante hammer. This has a health regen augmentation, affinity increase augmentation and then an augmentation of your choice, to which I've gone for a defense increase augmentation. As for the jaws, you've got a few to play around with, to which I've gone for Earplug jaws for the earplug skills, Attack jaws for the attack boost skill, Expert jaws for critical eye, Vitality jaws for health boost, Tenderizer jaws for weakness exploit, Challenger jaws for the agitator skill, Vitality jaws for health boost, and maintenance jaws for the tool specialist skill. The jaws on the mantles, I've simply gone for Challenger jaws again, although we had some spare ones as we didn't want to go over level 5 agitator, to which I've added a slider and expert jaw. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 1648 with maxed out white sharpness. You have 25% base affinity, which can be 75 when you're on a hunt and attacking monster weak points that have been tenderized through clutch claw attacks first. This could be higher once Agitator kicks in as well. You have a Dragon Elemental rating of 180 with high Elder Seal, and you have a decent defense of 948 that is strong against fire but unfortunately weak to the other elements. So let's move on to the skills. First of all is earplugs at level 5. Earplugs is a wonderful quality of life skill and is very useful for the hammer. This prevents any loss of character when a monster roars, leaving them open to your attack or for you to retreat and heal. And I personally find earplugs very useful on the hammer, as it means you don't always have to power up the hammer again, as a roar will normally interrupt it, meaning you have to reapply the buff. Anyway, you have Agitator level 5, Attack Boost level 4, Health Boost level 3, Weakness Exploit level 3, Focus at level 3. We talked about Focus during the Charge Blade build. Basically allows you to charge weapons up more quickly, and whilst in Monster Hunter World Vanilla it wasn't that useful, in Iceborne it's a little bit more useful, as it allows us to charge the hammer up more quickly and go into the brutal big bangs faster than if we didn't have Focus. And as rarely do you have an opportunity to perform the big bang combo, spamming the brutal big bang attack and then going into your clutch claw attacks is a nice alternative, and this allows you to do this a little bit more efficiently. Anyway, you have Part Breaker level 3, Tool Specialist level 3. Tool Specialist is a skill that reduces the cooldown on our specialist tools, so our mantles and such. You have Critical Eye level 2, which can be level 3 when we're wearing our mantles, and also when you're wearing your mantles you'll have Affinity Sliding, which is a buff that kicks in after you've slid down a slope for a small amount of time, increasing our affinity by 30% for a small duration of time. As for the set bonuses, you only have one, which is Nergigante Ambition, Hasten Recovery, which allows us to recover health when we're attacking a monster. And this does work in unison with the health regen augmentation, so we have some health regen and survival options there. So there you have it, that is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva hammer build that I tend to use. Obviously it is a little bit of a mix, it does have quality of life skills coupled with damage output skills. Whilst it's not going to deal the highest damage out there, it should allow you to deal uninterrupted damage thanks to having earplugs and more. Just remember what I said about Focus and the brutal big bang attacks. Which brings us on to the next build, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva heavy bowgun build. Now when it comes to Safi'Jiiva, the bowguns would be in a similar place to the bow, if not for one specific ammunition type, which is sticky ammo. Sticky ammo allows you to deal fixed damage to a monster, depending on the ammo level, as well as a few other attack-based skills, ensuring that you can deal a decent amount of damage to the monster regardless of what body part you're attacking. So we're going to be using this in our heavy bowgun build. So for this you'll need the Zora Headgear Beta, the Golden Loom Mel Beta, Zora Claws Beta, Golden Loom Coil Beta, and the Zora Spurs Beta. I'm also using a Razor Sharp Charm, and for my weapon I'm using the Rajang Destroyer, which is the Rajang heavy bowgun. This simply has attack increase augmentation and then an augmentation of your choice, to which I've gone for defense increase augmentation. As for your jaws, you've got a fair few to play around with, to which I've gone for artillery jaws to max out the artillery skill, then gone for a shield jaw for the guard up skill, I've then gone for destroyer jaws for the part breaker skill, iron war jaws for the guard skill, vitality jaws for the health boost, a phoenix jaw for the coalescence skill, and then finally I had a jaw to play around with, to which I've gone for a fortitude jaw for the fortify skill. The jaws on the mantles, unless I'm using something specific, I've simply gone for challenger jaws again for agitator. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which would be 200 health and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 533 with minus 15% affinity, although this doesn't matter whatsoever because the sticky ammunition explosions that we're primarily using cannot crit, so we don't have to worry about affinity whatsoever. Anyway, you'll have high deviation unfortunately, but for the custom mods I've simply gone for 4 shield mods to allow us maximum defense when it comes to blocking incoming attacks, and a power barrel to increase the knockout potential of our sticky ammunition. As for the special ammo, you'll have the Wyvern Heart, but we're not going to be really making use of it that much. As for your defense, you have a very strong defense of 940 that is very strong against fire, but unfortunately weak to the other elements. But as for the skills, you have artillery level 5, which does increase the damage of our sticky ammunition. You have guard level 5, increasing the block potential of the weapon we're using. Basically it reduces the knockback, the pushback when we block an attack, as well as the stamina consumption used to block said attack. Anyway, you have Divine Blessing at level 5, greatly increasing the chance at taking reduced damage when we do take a hit by a monster. You have Health Boost level 3, Part Breaker level 3, Flinch Free level 3, Earplugs level 1, this is a byproduct of the gear, and it's not going to be that useful against Safi'Jiiva. You have Fortify level 1, which is a buff that kicks in every time you faint, increasing your raw attack and damage up to a maximum of 2 times. You have Guard Up level 1, allowing us to block unblockable attacks, bar Safi'Jiiva's ultimate move. Even with Guard Up you won't be able to block the Sapphire of the Emperor, but you should be able to block everything else. You have Spare Shots level 1, giving us a small chance at not consuming a bullet when we fire the weapon. You have Coalescence level 1, and finally you'll have Agitator at level 4 when we're wearing our mantles. You'll also have the set bonus Zora Magdaros Essence, Artillery Secret, allowing us to get the artillery skill from level 3 to a maximum of level 5, as well as the Gold Rathian Essence Divine Blessing Secret, allowing us to get Divine Blessing from level 3 to a maximum of level 5. So there you have it. As you can see, it is a strong build. Obviously though, it focuses on sticky ammunition. With the Rajang Destroyer, the sticky ammunition free is an auto reload ammunition type. So you fire it and then it automatically reloads. So you have to time your shots and be a bit more selective instead of just spamming the fire trigger. If not, it means that you won't be able to block incoming attacks during the reload animation. But should you get the timing down right, as well as get used to crafting ammunition during a hunt, this build is incredibly strong, both in terms of damage output and survivability. Which brings us on to the next build, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva Sword and Shield build. This is a build that combines damage with support options, making it great for team play while at the same time being able to deal out some damage. So for this you'll need the Rex Raw Helm Beta, the Golden Loon Mel Beta, Rex Raw Braces Alpha, Golden Loon Coil Beta and the Tigrex Greaves Beta. I'm also using a Breaker Charm free, and for my weapon I'm using the Lunatic Rose, which is the Gold Raffian Sword and Shield. This has a health regen augmentation, affinity increase augmentation and then an augmentation of your choice, to which I've gone for a defense increase augmentation. As for your jewels, you've only got a few to play around with unfortunately, to which I've gone for jewels to really benefit the support aspect of this build. So firstly I've gone for Friendship Jaws for the wide range skill, Tenderizer Jaws for the weakness exploit, Gobbler Jaws for the speed eating skill, Sated Jaws for free meal, Expert Jaws for some critical eye, and then finally on our mantles as always we've got Challenger Jaws. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which would be 200 health and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 444 with white sharpness. You have 35% base affinity, which can be 85 when you're attacking monster weak points that have been tenderized through clutch claw attacks first, and you have a poison rating of 360. You also have a decent defense of 922 that is strong against fire and dragon, neutral against ice, but unfortunately weak to water and thunder. As for the skills, you've only got a few of them. First of all is Wide Range. This is an essential skill to support builds. Wide Range at level 5 allows you to pass on whatever consumable you consume. The effects will also be passed to your allies in full. So when you drink a potion, the healing effects are also passed to your allies. When you take a buff, those buffs are also passed to your allies, so on and so forth. You'll also have Divine Blessing level 5, Attack Boost level 4, Health Boost level 3, Weakness Exploit level 3, Part Breaker level 3, Free Meal level 3. Free Meal is a skill that gives us a chance at not consuming an item when we use it. So when we drink a potion, there's a chance that that potion won't actually be used up. And at level 3, it gives us a 75% chance of that item not being used up. You have Speed Eating level 3, which is a useful skill for support builds. It allows us to drink potions and consume buffs as if they were shots, downing them very quickly. Anyway, you'll also have Critical Eye level 2, Agitator at level 4 when we're wearing our mantles, and finally when it comes to the set bonuses you have two of them. First of all is the Tigrex Essence Free Meal Secret, allowing us to get the free meal skill from level 1 to that maximum of level 3. You'll also have the Gold Raffian Essence Divine Blessing Secret, allowing us to get Divine Blessing from level 3 to level 5. So there you have it. As you can see, it's a build that combines DPS with support options, and as Safi'Jiiva is normally a team focused fight, having someone with support options is definitely useful. But this build shouldn't be counted out for DPS as well, as it makes use of skills like Attack Boost, Weakness Exploit and more, meaning that if the team isn't taking damage, you can still be useful by hitting the monster quite hard. Which brings us on to the next build, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva Longsword build. This again is a very similar build to the Switch Axe in that it's a straightforward high DPS build focusing on damage more than anything else. So for this you'll need the Kaiser Crown Beta, the Rex Raw Mel Beta, Kaiser Van Braces Beta, Kaiser Coil Beta and the Garuga Greaves Beta. I'm also using an Unscathed Charm free, and for my weapon I'm using the Wyvern Blade Luna. This is the Gold Raffian Longsword. This has an affinity increase augmentation, health regen augmentation, and then a defense increase augmentation. As for your jaws, you've got a few to play around with, to which I've gone for Tenderizer Jaws, for weakness exploit, critical jaws for crit boost, destroy jaws for peak performance, vitality jaws for health boost, attack jaws for the attack boost skill, expert jaws for some critical eye, venom jaws for the poison attack skill, and finally I've gone for challenger jaws on the mantles as always. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which would be 200 health and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 1046 with white sharpness. You have 50% base affinity, which can easily be 100% so long as you're attacking monster weak points that have been tenderized through clutch claw attacks first. You have a poison rating of 560 with a decent defense of 928 that is strong against fire, thunder and dragon, but unfortunately weak to water and ice. As for the skills, you have critical eye at level 5. You have attack boost at level 4, poison attack at level 4. Poison attack increases the poison rating of a build as well as the build up of the ailment, potentially allowing us to poison a monster more often. you have health boost level 3, critical boost level 3, you have weakness exploit level 3, part breaker level 3, peak performance level 3. Peak performance is a skill that increases our raw attack so long as we have full health. You have blast attack level 2, again another byproduct as we mentioned in the switch axe build. You have heat guard level 1, latent power level 1, and when we're wearing our mantles you'll have agitator level 4. You'll also have the set bonus Teastro's technique, Master's Touch, preventing any sharpness loss when we crit a monster, and as this build can easily maintain that 100% affinity, we should see next to no sharpness loss whatsoever. So there you have it. As you can see, another strong DPS build, making use of various DPS skills designed to take on and counter Safi'Jiiva. Unfortunately though, it means it lacks in quality of life skills that can benefit the longsword as well as survival skills. But regardless, if you're a master of the longsword, can master the foresight, slash and more, you shouldn't be taking much damage anyway. Which brings us on to the next weapon, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva Greatsword build. This build bears many similarities to the hammer build that has already been featured in this video, in that it's a decent damage build combined with quality of life skills. So for this you'll need the Fell Shroud Helm Beta, the Damascus Mail Beta, Fell Shroud Braces Beta, Damascus Coil Beta and the Garuga Grease Beta. I'm also using an Earplugs Charm 4, and for my weapon I'm using the Ruinous Atrocity, which is the Runa Ner Gigante Greatsword. This has an affinity increase augmentation, health regen augmentation and then an augmentation of your choice, to which I've gone for a defense increase augmentation. As for the skills, you've got a ton to play around with here, to which I've gone for Tenderizer Jaws for weakness exploit, expert Jaws for critical eye, recovery Jaws for the recovery speed skill, earplug Jaws to max out the earplug skill, forcing divine blessing, medicine Jaws for recovery up, vitality Jaws for health boost, a flawless jaw to max out peak performance, destroyer jaws for part breaker, and finally on the mantles we've gone for challenger jaws as always. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 1416 with maxed out white sharpness. You have 40% base affinity, which can be 90% so long as you're attacking monster weak points that have been tenderized through clutch claw attacks first. You have a dragon rating of 240 with high elder seal, and you have a decent defense of 924 that is strong against fire, water and thunder, neutral against ice but unfortunately weak to dragon. As for the skills, you have critical eye level 6, earplugs at level 5, health boost at level 3, recovery up at level 3. Recovery up is a skill that increases how much healing we receive through healing effects, so ultimately we heal for more when we take any form of healing. You have recovery speed level 3. Recovery speed is a skill that increases how quickly we can regenerate our health. Normally when you take damage, you'll have a portion of red health on your health bar. Recovery speed increases how quickly that red portion of health will heal itself over time. However, with the set bonuses we're using, this can apply to the entire health bar, not just the red portion, but we'll talk about that in a moment. You have weakness exploit level 3, focus level 3, part breaker level 3, peak performance level 3, divine blessing level 1, and when you're wearing your mantles you have agitator at potential level 4. Finally, for the set bonus you only have one of them, which is the Val Soul Vein super recovery, allowing us to recover naturally over time the entire health bar, not just the red portion of our health. So there you have it. As you can see, it is a little bit of a mixed build combining quality of life, some health regen with damage output. But I for one can attest that having earplugs on the greatsword against Safi'Jiiva is a wonderful quality of life skill, and I highly recommend it. Which brings us on to the next build, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva Gunlance build. This build in a way bears similarities to the Darcblade build featured at the start, in that it's a build all about artillery, dealing fixed damage to a monster, meaning that we don't have to worry about affinity and we can deal decent damage regardless of what monster body part we are hitting. So for this you'll need the Zora Headgear Beta, the Damascus Mail Beta, Zora Claws Beta, the Damascus Coil Beta, Zora Spears Beta and the Handicraft Charm 4. I'm also using the Magda Lahat Reforged, which is the Zora Magdaros Gunlance. The main reason we've taken this Gunlance is because we need a Gunlance that has long level 6 shells, and it also comes with a decent defense boost. This has an attack increase augmentation and then a health regen augmentation attached to it. So as for the jaws, you've got a lot to play around with, to which I've gone for artillery jaws for the artillery skill, a magazine jaw for capacity boost, a shield jaw for guard up, a sharp jaw for protective polish combined with a hard enduring jaw for item prolonger, destroyer jaws for part breaker, iron war jaws for some points in the guard skill, vitality jaws for health boost, and the jaws on your mantles that are slightly different here, to which I've gone for hard defense jaws for the defense boost skill and challenger jaws for the agitator skill, although to be honest the challenger jaws could really be replaced here. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 690 with a sliver of purple sharpness, you have minus 10% affinity, but as shelling attacks deal fixed damage, we don't have to worry about affinity whatsoever. You have a blast rating of 450 with long level 6 shells. This is the main aspect of this build. Basically, if you don't like the shelling gameplay style with the Gunlance, then you may not get on with this build. All this build focuses on is performing charged shelling shots rather than using the lance portion of the weapon. You'll also have a very strong defense of 962 with incredibly high fire defense, but unfortunately you're weak to the other elements. As for the skills, you have artillery at level 5, increasing damage of our shelling attacks. You have handicraft at level 4. Handicraft increases the sharpness gauge of whatever weapon we are using, and as shelling attacks eat through sharpness very quickly, we want to try to increase our sharpness in order to be able to shell for longer periods of time before we have to sharpen the weapon again. You have health boost level 3, focus level 3. Focus at level 3 does apply to the Gunlance as it allows us to perform the charged shelling shots a little bit more quickly. You have part breaker level 3, guard level 3, item prolonger level 3. Item prolonger is a skill that allows certain item buffs to remain active for longer, and this also works in unison with protected polish, which we'll talk about in a minute. You have flinch free level 3, earplugs level 1, capacity boost level 1, guard up level 1, protected polish level 1. Protected polish is a skill that allows you to put a protective coating over your sharpness gauge, preventing any sharpness loss for a small duration of time. And this duration of time can be increased even more thanks to item prolonger. So protected polish combined with item prolonger and handicraft means that we should be able to continue shelling during a hunt for a decent amount of time before we have to resharpen the weapon. You'll also have defense boost at level 6 when we're wearing our mantles, increasing the defense rating and elemental defenses of this build. And you'll have agitator level 2, but like I said, to be honest, you could pretty much replace this with something else, as it's not going to be useful on this build. This was simply a mistake on my part. But anyway, you'll also have one set bonus, which is Zora Magdaros Essence Artillery Secret, allowing us to get the artillery skill from level 3 to a maximum of level 5. So there you have it. As you can see, it is a straightforward shelling build, making use of all the essential shelling skills such as artillery, capacity boost, focus and more. On top of that, it does have a few defensive skills thanks to having guard at level 3 and guard up, meaning that you can take monster hits and keep on kicking. But I do apologise for Swing Lance fans out there, because this, like I said, focuses on the shelling gameplay style. Which brings us on to the next build, which is one of my personal favourites, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva light bowgun build. This build is a very, very quirky light bowgun build and is incredibly easy to craft. Again, like the heavy bowgun, it focuses on sticky ammunition to allow us to deal fixed damage to a monster, but on top of that it also combines various quality of life skills combined with enhanced poison ammunition. So for this build you'll need the Wrath Heart Helm Beta, the Nagakuga Mail Beta, the Wrath Heart Braces Beta, the Nagakuga Fouls Beta, the Nagakuga Greaves Beta, and I'm using an Awakening Charm 3. For my weapon I'm using the Blackwing Bowgun 2, which is the Iangaruga light bowgun. This has an attack increase augmentation and then a slot upgrade augmentation. As for your jewels, you've only got a few to play around with here unfortunately, to which I've gone for Destroyer jewels for part breaker, vitality jewels for health boost, artillery jewels for the artillery skill, evasion jewels for the evade window skill, jumping jewel for evade extender, and venom jewels for the poison attack skill. The jewels on the mantles are slightly different, to which I've gone for KO jewels, as sticky ammo has a natural knockout effect, meaning that when we're using our mantles and attacking ahead, we may be able to knock out the monster a little bit more easily. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which would be 200 health and 150 stamina. When you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables, you have an attack of 394 with 25% base affinity, but like I said, as we are using sticky ammunition, we don't really have to worry about affinity. You have average deviation, and for the custom mods, unfortunately you kind of have to go for these ones, which include 2 recoil suppressors and 2 evade reloading mods. This basically eliminates the issues when dealing with sticky ammunition, as in you don't have to worry about reloading because you can use evade reloading, and it also counters the recoil, meaning that you can stay on the move without any loss of character when firing the weapon. Anyway, for the special ammo you have Wyvern Blast, and you'll have an OK defense of 887 that is neutral against fire and ice, strong against water but unfortunately weak to thunder and dragon. As for the skills, you'll have Evade Window level 5. Evade Window is a personal favourite quality of life skill, or it could be considered defensive skill. Basically it increases the invulnerability frames when you perform dodges, so it allows us to pretty much dodge attacks more successfully. You have Poison Attack level 4, increasing the poison damage and build-up of the ailment, and as some of our damage will be dealt through poison ammunition, this will increase the effectiveness of that. The Iangaruga light bowgun specialises when it comes to poison ammunition. It has access to both poison 1 and 2 ammunition types that have huge clip sizes, next to no recoil, and very quick reload speeds, meaning that you can often poison a monster before starting to use sticky ammunition, and then once it runs out you just simply rinse and repeat. This, also coupled with the set bonus we'll talk about in a minute, means that we can deal a decent amount of unseen damage to a monster that is quite effective, especially if the monster is weak to poison. Anyway, you have health boost level 3, ammo up level 3. This is a skill that increases how many bullets you can have in a magazine, and you need it for level 3 as we are primarily going to be using sticky free ammunition types, so this will allow us at least 2 bullets before we need to reload the weapon. You have Part Breaker level 3, Artillery level 3, Evade Extender level 3. Evade Extender increases the distance at which we dodge. You have Windproof level 2, this is a byproduct of the armor we're wearing. It helps resist minor wind effects, but it's not going to be really that useful against Safi'Jiiva, unfortunately. You have Stamina Surge level 1, and when we're wearing mantles, you'll also have Slugger at level 2, increasing our knockout potential, so long as we're attacking monster heads. Finally, we'll have 2 set bonuses. First is the Nagakuga Essence, True Spare Shot, greatly increasing the chance of not consuming a bullet when we fire the weapon, ultimately meaning that we have to reload less, and ultimately meaning that we potentially dish out more damage. Finally, you'll have the Rathian Essence, Poison Duration Up. This works in unison with the poison ammunition as well as the poison attack, allowing the poison element to remain active on a monster for longer periods, thus dealing more ticks and thus more damage. So there you have it. As you can see, it is a very unique build. I think one of the main aspects I like about it is that it can deal unseen damage thanks to the poison element. It can still deal decent fixed damage thanks to sticky ammunition, namely sticky freeze. It has decent quality of life skills in the form of evade window, health boost and evade extender. And on top of that, there's a build that isn't really hard to craft at all. Using some of the more low tier armor pieces in the game, it's still an effective build to use against this endgame monster. And so long as you know how to craft ammo during a hunt, this build is very fun to use. Which brings us on to the next build, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva Hunting Horn build. This build is a straight up damage dealing build for the Hunting Horn. The main rotation I had in mind when creating this build is to buff up your hunting party at the start of the hunt and then go all in with your damage, and then when Safi'Jiiva goes to the next area you rebuff, rinse and repeat. So for this you'll need the Kaiser Crown Beta, the Rex Royal Mel Beta, Kaiser Van Braces Beta, Kaiser Coil Beta and the Garug Greaves Beta. I'm also using a Challenger Charm 4, and for my weapon I'm using the Ruinous Desolation. This is the Ruina Nergigante Hunting Horn. This has an affinity increase augmentation, health regen augmentation, and then an augmentation of your choice, to which I've gone for a defense increase augmentation. As for your jaws, you've only got a few to play around with, to which I've gone for the essential ones, such as Destroyer jaws for part breaker, Vitality jaws for health boost, Expert jaws for critical eye, Tenderizer jaws for weakness exploit, critical jaws for crit boost, attack jaws for attack boost, and finally a sonorous jaw for Horn Maestro skill, which is kind of essential for the Hunting Horn. Finally, the jaws and the mantles, again I've gone for KO jaws for the Slugger skill, as the Hunting Horn is a blunt weapon and can naturally benefit from hitting monsters on the head. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which would be 200 health and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 1331 with maxed out white sharpness. You have 55% base affinity, which can easily be 100 when you're attacking monster weak points, that being tenderized through clutch claw attacks first. You have a dragon rating of 210 with high outer sill. You have decent songs available to you with this Hunting Horn, including Affinity Up, Earplugs, Health Regen, and Echo Waves Dragon. And you have a decent defense of 928 that is strong against fire, thunder and dragon, but unfortunately weak to water and ice. As for the skills, you have Critical Eye level 7, Attack Boost level 4, Agitator at level 4, Health Boost at level 3, Critical Boost at level 3, Weakness Exploit level 3, Part Breaker level 3, Blast Attack level 2, Horn Maestro level 2. This is a skill that really only applies to the Hunting Horn, allowing the melodies and songs to remain active for longer periods of time. You have Heat Guard level 1, Latent Power level 1, and when we're wearing our mantles you also have Slugger at level 2. You also have the following set bonus: Teostra's Technique, Master's Touch, preventing any sharpness loss when we crit a monster, and as this build has high affinity, we receive minimal sharpness loss. So there you have it. As you can see, it bears many similarities to both the Longsword and Switch Axe builds, but has a few alterations that apply to the Hunting Horn. As a result, it can deal out decent amounts of damage, but lacks quality of life and defensive skills. Although to be honest, not having quality of life skills isn't really an issue with this Hunting Horn, as the quality of life can come in the form of the various songs it can play. And this can not only help you, but your entire hunting party. Which brings us on to the next build, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva Lance build. This is a highly defensive Anti-Safi'Jiiva build designed to take Safi'Jiiva's ire and tank the monster. It does have some damage options, but it's been mostly crafted for survival. So for this you'll need the Fellshroud Helm Beta, Fellshroud Meld Beta, Ruinous Vambraces Beta, Ruinous Coil Beta, and the Garuga Greaves Beta. I'm also using a Breaker Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Ruinous Perdition, which is the Ruiner Nergigante Lance. This has a health regen augmentation, affinity increase augmentation, and then an augmentation of your choice, to which I've gone for a defense increase augmentation. As for your jewels, you've got a few to play around with, to which I've gone for Medicine Jewels for the recovery up skill, Iron Wall Jewels for the guard skill, Challenger Jewels for the agitated skill, Vitality Jewels for health boost, a Shield Jewel for guard up, Attack Jewels for the attack boost skill, Flawless Jewels for peak performance, Recovery Jewels for recovery speed, and finally Tenderizer Jewels for the weakness exploit skill. As for the jewels and the mantles, I've only gone for hard defense jewels to increase our defense a little bit while wearing the glider mantle. Apart from that, I'm using a health booster this time. This is because when tanking, you don't really have time to sheath your weapon and drink a potion, and having the booster down beforehand allows us to regenerate our health without having to sheath our weapon. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health and 150 stamina when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 729 with maxed out white sharpness. You have 25% base affinity, which can easily be 75 when you're attacking monster weak points that have been tenderized through clutch claw attacks first. You have a dragon rating of 210 with high outer seal, and you have a decent defense of 940 that is strong against water and ice, neutral against fire, but unfortunately weak to thunder and dragon. As for the skills, you have attack boost level 4, health boost level 3, recovery up level 3, recovery speed level 3, weakness exploit level 3, part breaker level 3, agitator at level 3, peak performance at level 3, guard at level 3, critical eye at level 2, earplugs at level 1, dragon attack at level 1, a byproduct of the gear but can still be useful as we are using the dragon weapon in this build, guard up at level 1, and finally when we're wearing our mantles you have defense boost at level 6. As for the set bonuses, you have two of them. First is the Val Solvane Super Recovery, allowing our health bar to recover itself over time, and you also have Nergigante's Ambition Hasten Recovery, allowing us to recover our health when we're attacking a monster, and this does work in unison with the health regen augmentation as mentioned with some of the previous builds. So there you have it. As you can see, it is a strong defensive build, combining health regen with other defensive options. As a result though, this means that this build may lack a little bit when it comes to attack, but it still has a few offensive options thanks to weakness exploit, peak performance, so long as you can keep your health maxed out, agitator at level 3 and attack boost. But like I said, the main reason behind this build was to gain Safi'Jiiva's ire by performing a flint shot on its head if you weren't able to get the ire in the first place, and keep it on you and ultimately keep the monster in place so your team can deal uninterrupted damage to the monster. Which brings us on to our final build, which is the Anti-Safi'Jiiva Insect Glaive build. This is a little bit of an all-rounder build for the Insect Glaive, combining damage with a few quality of life skills that can benefit the Insect Glaive's use of stamina. So for this you'll need the Fogor Helm Beta, the Ruinous Meld Beta, Ruinous Vambraces Beta, Fogor Coil Beta, and the Garuga Greaves Beta. I'm also using a Breaker Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Ruinous Catastrophe. This is the Ruiner Nergigante Insect Glaive. This has a health regen augmentation, affinity increase augmentation, and then an elemental up augmentation. As for your jewels, you've got a few to play around with, to which I've gone for Tenderizer Jewels for weakness exploit, a Sharp Jewel for protected polish, followed by a Hard Enduring Jewel for item prolonger, critical jewels for crit boost, a Flight Jewel for the airborne skill, expert jewels for some critical eye, a Challenger Jewel for the agitated skill, vitality jewels for health boost, and an attack jewel for the attack boost skill. The jewels on the mantles, we've once again gone for Challenger jewels combined with protection jewels. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which would be 200 health and 200 stamina this time when you're on a hunt and taking all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of 983 with white sharpness. You have 30% base affinity, which can be higher when you're attacking monster weak points that have been tenderized through clutch claw attacks first and the agitated buff is kicked in. You have a dragon rating of 210 with high outer seal, and you'll have a Sever Boost Kinset bonus with a OK defense of 917 that is strong against fire, neutral against thunder, but weak to the other elements. As for the skills, you have attack boost level 4, item prolonger level 3, health boost level 3, critical eye level 3, crit boost level 3, weakness exploit level 3, part breaker level 3, agitator level 3, which can be level 5 when we're wearing our mantles. You have stamina surge level 3, airborne level 1. Airborne is a skill that increases the damage of our attacks whilst we remain airborne, and as the Insect Glaive specializes in airborne attacks, it can really make use of this skill. You have protected polish level 1, divine blessing level 2 when we're wearing our mantles, and you'll have two set bonuses which include Anjanaf's dominance, stamina cap up, allowing our maximum stamina to get to level 200 instead of just 150. Finally you'll have the Nergigante's Ambition Hasten Recovery, allowing us to recover health when we're attacking a monster. So as you can see, this is a little bit of an all-round build combining damage output with some quality of life skills for the Insect Glaive. This is also a build that can work well in the air for the insect glaive, thanks to having stamina cap up coupled with the airborne skill, allowing this build to be one of the only melee weapons to constantly attack the wings of the monster. And if that's not the way you like to play the insect glaive and you prefer to stay grounded, there are still lots of options to deal out damage. Lastly, for this build I will say there is a small mistake. A hard enduring jaw isn't needed, you can just go with a basic enduring jaw, as there is already a point of item prolonger built into the Thorgor Anjanath coil. So there we have it, those are the Anti-Safi'Jiiva builds I used to use to take on the Safi'Jiiva Siege. Like I mentioned, these builds don't feature any materials, weaponry, armour that came out Safi'Jiiva onwards. So these builds are aimed for players who have pretty much got to the point where they're maybe taking on Safi'Jiiva for the first time and want a little bit of help or suggestions in what builds they should take to the hunt. This also marks the end of Season 4 of the Amazing Build series, as we'll be going into Season 5, which will be featuring builds post Safi'Jiiva onwards. But remember, as I always say, you don't have to use what is shown in these videos. Use what you want to use, as most tasks in Monster Hunter World Iceborne can be taken on with any weapon and gear set. But I hope you found this video helpful or informative, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you the Anti-Safi'Jiiva builds I use in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.